Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right, Fade to Black. How you doing? Today's Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. We're 3 days away from the Bike Riders film release. You know, I can't wait for this. It's going to be amazing. Everybody's in it. All right. So anyway, that's why I know it's June 18th, because that movie gets released on the 21st. And mixed reviews. Normally I don't read movie reviews. If it looks like something I'm interested in, I watch it. I don't pay attention to critics. I don't care. It doesn't matter. So how do I feel about it? Well, so I jumped in and I broke my own rule. And the review, it's really weird. They're like, it's just weird. You either love it or you don't, right? It's just kind of funny. Anyway, the Bike Riders comes out on the 21st, and I'll keep you posted. Like you're waiting like I am. I kind of doubt it. But what an amazing week we have here on Fade to Black. And last night's show with Paul Hynek, which was aliens, DMT, and AI, all three subjects were covered quite deeply. Extraordinary conversation, and thank you for that, Paul. Tonight, Serena Wright Taylor is with us, and she goes to Puerto Rico quite often, and she just got back. I've called the show Puerto Rican ET Contact. And I remember, we'll find out from Serena, but I am going to say it was just over 3 years ago. Now, I know Serena pretty well. And we are close friends. And as I am with her husband and her daughter, I'm a part of Serena's world, and it's just an incredible place. But sometimes even those that are close to you will surprise you. And that's what happened on the show 3.5 years ago. So we're doing the show on Puerto Rico. And then she whips out this photograph that I've never seen before, that I didn't know about, of an ET looking at her through the jungle. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, when did this happen, and why am I finding out about it live on the air? I stared at that picture for a month after that, and it was absolutely incredible. And that's why she likes to venture into Puerto Rico. She's got a lot of friends there, and she goes and gets her research done. So we have a lot of stuff that we're going to be covering tonight, and we will circle back to that. Tomorrow night on the show, Kevin Jameson is here. We are going to be discussing the crustal shift hoax. Now, if you don't know what that is, there's a new thing out. It's pretty cool. It's called Google. Some call it Google. Use it and search for that and check it out. Tomorrow night, that's what we will be discussing. And then Thursday, Seth Shostak is with us. We are going to be talking about SETI and the ET search that continues, and we're going to get all of the latest updates. And where's Seth at with all of this? We're going to be doing that Thursday night. Now, also coming up, I do want to mention that Disclosure Fest Stairway to the Stars is canceled. It was supposed to be this weekend. We've got a very large fire that is happening right now in Southern California that went up to the very edges of Castaic Lake, where we were having the event. That is now the emergency firefighting staging area where we were going to have the event. and Disclosure Fest was canceled by Cal Fire. But immediately coming up is the 2024 Conscious Awards in Miami, Florida. That is August 3rd and 4th. And tickets, that's a full weekend of events, by the way. We've got a conference. We've got a VIP boat cruise, that is a yacht cruise that is happening. I think there's a celebrity basketball game that is going to happen, I believe. And then, of course, the awards on Sunday night. So it's a full weekend of events and the conference. The links for that are below. And the reason why I'm bringing all of this up, last night, Paul Hynek said on the show that he was going to Alaska with us in September 6th through the 13th, the Contact at Sea cruise. So I'm done. I've got my, it's called a cabin. I've got a cabin with a balcony. Why? I want to see them whales. That's right. And that's what we're going up there for. So come and hang out with Paul Hynek and myself. Seth Shostak's going to be on that too. An amazing lineup of speakers. That's why I'm bringing that up, that because Paul is now going with us too. All right. Let's links for everything that I'm doing for the rest of the year are down below, and you can get all of your information. Tonight, Serena Wright Taylor is with us. She just got back from Puerto Rico. She interviewed Jorge Martin. We'll be talking about that. And she is an award-winning conference producer, intuitive Vedic astrologer, UFO researcher, and, of course, a humanitarian. That's right. It is all about cucumber sandwiches. We'll be discussing that and much more tonight. And she is one of the producers over at the Conscious Life Expo. She's been doing that for 22 years. I think it's longer than that. I'll let her stick to the 22-year part. The links for Conscious Life Expo are below. And I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black my good friend, the one and only Serena Wright. She's right there. Serena?
Hello, Jimmy. Great to be back.
It's so, here, Serena, just let me say this. This show is a family show. The audience, the guests, and things. This is a family affair. And the audience understands that when I have a guest on, could be a first-time guest, but the guest knows about the show. The guest knows me, right? And it's always like this warm, fuzzy thing. And then the audience also knows when I have my friends on, and they know it's always going to be dynamic and cool. And they know you because you are a fade or not, and you're part of this family. And it's got to feel pretty good, right? Are you comfortable when you come in? A little nervous, or do you know? It's family, so it's just like us sitting around the dinner table.
Comfortable, very comfortable. Yeah, earlier I get nervous thinking, will I have enough time to get everything in, or will I run out of information before the end? And all kinds of silly things like that.
I guarantee. And I just interrupted Serena for the first time. I won't do it anymore tonight. I guarantee tomorrow, Serena's going to call me. It'll be about 11 o'clock. Okay. That's her go time. It'll be about 11 o'clock. She'll say these words to me. Jimmy, we didn't talk about blah, blah, blah. Right. No matter what we try to do, Serena, you will say that to me tomorrow. So, we'll try to get it all in. Okay. Can I ask you one quick question, unrelated to tonight's show as we get started here? Mm-hmm. You have done my charts, but you practice Vedic, and there is always an animated discussion about different forms of astrology, and And I always kind of look at it. Aren't stars just stars, right? Aren't the planets just the planets? But no, that isn't the case. So briefly, what's the difference between Vedic and Western astrology, and why should we care?
Well, the planets are the same. The planets are planets, and there are the same number of planets and everything. But there's basically 23.5 degrees difference, or could be a bit more than that now, because of the recession of the equinoxes. So we're closer to astronomy. And so that's why people sometimes are a different sign. Not always, though, because there's 30 degrees in a sign. So so it's good not to confuse the two. So if I do a reading and tell you, somebody, they're Pisces, but they're Aries in tropical, then when you're looking at the Western or tropical astrology, you're an Aries for that explanation. And when you're reading something Vedic, you're Pisces. So it's best to keep them separate. But the planets have very, same influences and the same aspects, but we have kind of extra aspects really in different ones. And we have 27 constellations. There are 27 constellations. And so especially the one the moon's in makes a difference for a person. And there's a lot of other things we look at too. There's time periods for everyone. Everyone's different according to when they're born. So there's time periods called dashas and bhuktis. And when I gave you your chart, if you still have it, you'll probably see that there's these time periods that have dates and a planet. And so say Jupiter, you might be in a Jupiter, but you might be in a moon sub-period. So all that makes a difference too in the background. But basically, some of these strong transits and aspects are the same. And actually, all kinds of astrology works. Chinese is really good. It all is ways that can help us and guide us. It's not something that's set in stone, but it can guide us.
Oh, okay. So let's, and then we're going to move on. We've got to get to them aliens. So we're going to do that. But let me ask you a question. So let's say in the same day, I get a reading from a Western astrologer who says the next 2 weeks are going to be the best 2 weeks of your life. And then I go to a Chinese astrologer and they go, you know what? Be careful of your friend. And then I go to you and you go, church, don't leave the house, whatever you do. So what do who's right?
I haven't seen that happen though.
It happens. No.
Because I know Western astrologers and we talk among ourselves,
right?
And we're often in agreement with. So I haven't actually come across that.
Really?
Yeah.
See, that's what you're so kind. You're so kind. You're so kind. All right, let's talk about cucumber sandwiches. So why do you go? It's an inside joke, everybody, and it will always be.
Brussels sprouts too.
I bet you have. What originally? Puerto Rico's always been in the conversation in UFO circles, but for different reasons, right? You've got Arecibo, you've got Contact, you've got the Northwest, you've got the Southeast, you've got the Southwest, you've got these different parts of Puerto Rico with different things going on. You've got lakes that are full of undersea bases. You've got rumors of military involvement and plane change. All of this has been going on, and then throw in the movie Contact, right? Which is like the icing on the cake. So there's always something interesting going on there. But what first drew you to Puerto Rico?
Oh, in the 80s, well, late 80s, 88, 89, 90, when I went to the Whole Life Expo, that was before Our Conscious Life, it was Whole Life. There's always a strong UFO section. I was so excited about that. And there were some papers going around, and I got copies from Jorge Martin in Puerto Rico. He's been the investigator there for years. And he would write I've got some right now, right next to me, that he wrote a long time ago, of people's experiences and contacts and ETs and UFOs and ETs walking around, amazing things. And I thought, I wish I could go there. That sounds amazing. And I didn't even know where it was, actually, being British. I didn't actually know. I knew it was somewhere in the South. And so I would always, grab anything I could find from Jorge. And then it was amazing because when I met my husband, that was in 99, and I found out that his experience, that the main experience he had, that's Douglas Taylor, was in Puerto Rico with his very, very, very spiritually advanced ETs and he had met 7 of them on a ship, and it all happened to him in Puerto Rico after surfing, and he wasn't expecting that. But it's like that's a gateway to all kinds of ETs to come and go. And people have experiences there more than anywhere I've found. And the military are covering it up in a big way there as well. So so when I found out that, that was amazing. So of course we thought, let's go to Puerto Rico. And so then we went together in 2005, and we met. I got in touch with Jorge in advance, and then we met him and his wife Marlene, who unfortunately has since passed. We're really sorry about that. But then we just met Jorge again, of course, this last time to catch up. And I can phone him and I can email him anytime and talk about these things. It's just wonderful to know him. And actually, I think I've got a picture of us with him in our last visit. You might have that you might want to show at some point.
Yeah. I'll whip that up in a second. Serena, can I get you just to stay in one position?
Oh, yeah.
Instead of coming into the camera. Well, it goes out of focus. So,
okay.
Yeah, just stay in one position because we want the glowing Serena.
Okay.
We'll get to Jorge. Well, okay. Let me pull up Jorge. Hang on for a second. And I have the technology. And so we'll do this right here. And so that's from this trip.
That's from this trip. Yes, that's the one. We just met him. And so we were talking on the phone quite a bit. And then he came into where we were, Luquillo, which is not far from El Yunque. And so we had a good meeting and I wrote lots of notes. And then he said, let's go to El Yunque again, because we'd already been, every day while we were there. And let's go together. So that was great. So we got in his car and we went up there to get some, exact places. And we saw a crash site, which I'm going to talk about. Although you can't see now anything from the crash, but it's really amazing to be walking in those places where all these things happened.
Now Jorge's a really nice guy.
Oh, he's
but here he's got his serious face on, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Yeah.
He's got a serious face on. Now, what part of Puerto Rico are we focusing on tonight?
We're focusing on mostly El Yunque rainforest, but I do have something from the southwest to talk about. I think last time I was on the show, I was talking about the southwest. I was talking about Laguna Cartagena, the alien that was watching us, and all those things. And this time I will talk about El Yunque. But there's a couple of things that, and there's one place that was in the southwest that's quite amazing that happened at a base. So I'll talk about that as well.
Well, we'll get to that. So what part of Puerto Rico is Yunque?
El Yunque is in the east. It's a big rainforest. And, it's so amazing to be there, even if you don't see any ETs or not interested in ETs. Just being in that forest is incredible. We used to learn about rainforests at school in England. We used to learn about the 3 different, the high trees and the medium ones and the ground cover and how it all works together and all the animals in the forest. We used to learn about that. So it was amazing to be there and see all that nature. But at the same time, there's so much extraterrestrial activity. And when I think about it, there is in Brazil as well. And that's, obviously the biggest rainforest there. So I think it's a good place for the extraterrestrials to live. And they love to explore it. The interesting thing is there's so many stories that accounts from people where it seems like the extraterrestrials are interested in studying them, studying people, watching people, like one was watching us, and then also studying the plant life and examining it. And there's many accounts of that. So it's like they're learning about this planet.
It's not a coincidence that Arecibo was Puerto Rico was chosen for Arecibo. It's not a coincidence, is there?
No, I don't think so. No. Although it's shut down now.
It's shut down. Do you think they'll rebuild it?
I don't know. Jorge doesn't think so. They're not giving you funding. It would take a lot, I think. If they funded it, that would be great. I don't know why, But they've got a lot
If
going on there.
man,
Other than that.
if I'm Elon Musk, right? If I'm Jeff Bezos, if I'm Bill Gates, if I'm somebody with some money, Paul Allen's no longer with us, but he was into them aliens. Paul Allen was great. But if I was one of those guys, I dump my money right there, and and for them, it's a drop in the bucket. To repair it and rebuild it and get new tech into the facility because it was built a long time ago. Now, I'm not saying that computers weren't updated. I'm just saying, man, rebuild Arecibo. I'm going to ask Seth Shostak about that on Thursday. Why hasn't anybody gone there? Yeah,
because he always says to people, there's no extraterrestrials. And in fact, I don't know if it was him or another scientist that we went to when 2005, we were in a restaurant right near the basic nearest restaurant to the radio telescope. And the owner of the restaurant said, a scientist was standing in the doorway of him to once and saying, you will never see an extraterrestrial. He said that to him, but he had already seen one.
Well, I don't think Seth. I don't think Seth says there is no ET. He says that he hasn't contacted ET yet. But no, he knows there's life out there. He's just trying to find it.
Because at that time, Jorge and Marlene with us, when we were there in 2005, they interviewed the guards at Arecibo, and we were listening to that, and they were talking about a big UFO right over the telescope and how they see them all the time. So I can't believe he doesn't know that.
Who, Seth?
Yeah. That he doesn't know that.
Well, we'll talk. Well, we are talking about Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
This is. I'm not going to speak for Seth. Okay, I'm not. But for those out there and he's had his share of critics and criticism and stuff and pokes at him, and I get that and I understand it. My point is, what is the alternative to no SETI? The answer is nothing.
Yeah.
And you know what nothing is? Nothing is nothing.
Yeah.
So would you rather have nothing or the alternative, which is somebody making the effort to go, there's the universe is a big place and it's really hard to do. And looking at pinpoints, I understand all of that. But the alternative is to do nothing. Yes. So I absolutely 100% support SETI.
Yeah,
I do. And I support Seth and their efforts. If I could do it, I would have Seth's job.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, and we'd like it if you had his job. That would be great.
I'm not saying that there'd be contact next week, but I mean, wouldn't it be cool? I was talking about this last night with Paul Hynek. That moment with Jodie Foster in Contact when she's sitting on the hood of her Chevelle, right? She's got the headphones on, right? And she's and then the burr, 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 right? And she throws her car in gear, burr, right? And she's like 38 minutes, 42 seconds, right? And wouldn't you want to be that person that hears that at that moment? Yes. I cannot imagine that. And so Seth's got the best job in the world. Eventually it's going to happen. And I just hope it's sooner than later. But yeah, man, SETI is cool. And that's another thing, when it comes to Puerto Rico and Arecibo, it seems to me that there is maybe it's its location, maybe it's geographic, maybe it's the makeup of the island and it's the geology. Maybe it's the surrounding waters. Maybe there's something under, but for some reason, ET is attracted to the island. What's your theory on that? Why?
Yes, I think, well, I think also that's what you were saying about how it has all different kinds of nature there, and it's not very. I mean, it is populated, but it's not like like America or like the big countries. I think that also the military went there after. It's not like the military were there and then the ETs were there. The ETs have been there forever, because people talk about actually. Jorge interviewed someone a while back now, he might not be alive now, who was there as a guard to the campsites when the geologists used to explore the caves, and they were mapping the caves in the 40s. And he was would look after their campsite during the day while the people went into the caves. And he saw little beings looking at him in the forest. And they're like small grays. They've got kind of cat's eyes. People see them quite a bit. But he was being watched by the small humanoids. And so he remembered that and told Jorge about that. And that was a while back. So, they've been here forever, I think, in Puerto Rico, in these certain bases, certain parts. And, well, when I tell you some of these accounts from people, you'll see that it seems like it's also multidimensional, because all the mountains, there's been UFOs disappear into them many times. People have seen that. And one girl, she actually saw ETs. They showed her where they lived. They show her that they actually lived inside the mountains. So I'll be able to tell you that in a minute if you like. So I think that it's, that's how they get through. Like they go into the lake as well, the UFOs going to the lake, and you think, well, how are they getting through to some base under it? And actually that in 2006, because we went back right after the first time we went back the next year, 2006, I was poking around the lake because actually it had got a little smaller. It had receded because it was dry that year. And I was poking around thinking, where's the door? But it's a technology, an interdimensional technology, that they can go through the water to underground. They can go through a mountain, and the forest is still there. People will go up the mountain and look at it. The same with the Sierra Bermeja in the southwest. They've seen UFOs go right into the mountain and gone up there and looked for doorways. But it's some kind of amazing technology that goes inside the earth and under the sea.
Yeah, that's what I've always found really compelling about Puerto Rico in these reports. It's not like people are saying that a hangar door is opening, right? And or they're they're entering. No, that they are literally passing through it and into it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely extraordinary. And the underwater part, and then we'll get to your latest research, I promise. The United States Navy has their own Area 51. And with the craziest, most advanced research going on, and it's not in San Diego, it's not in Florida, it's not in Jacksonville. No, it's in Puerto Rico. Yeah. And that's not a coincidence either, is it? What's it called? VK?
Vieques. Yes. That's amazing, because the people are stuck in the middle, and both sides of the whole island are military, and they're not allowed to fish there or anything. And people see ETs all the time. So it's like that's an island next to the island.
Mm-hmm,
but Vieques, and then all these other.
Oh yeah, bases. Vieques. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Vieques.
Yeah.
And there have been reports between that island and the mainland from many witnesses about glowing craft under the water, and they see what's going on, the entrance and exit of craft in that area.
Yes.
Now, could it be ET? Could it be the United States Navy? Could it be a mix of both? Could it be backwards engineered? But it's definitely trans-medium action going on in that area, which is on the east side of Puerto Rico.
Yes. And Yeah, Jorge always says, talk to the fishermen. And if anyone wants to go to Puerto Rico and, investigate, ask the fishermen, because they see things all the time. And it's always more and more information is coming. And a lot of people have had experiences that they don't talk about for years. So some of these accounts that I have tonight are from people who had an experience years ago and didn't want to talk about it because they're scared, because they can disappear. Things happen to them. This has happened quite a lot. So people are not afraid of the ETs. They're afraid of the military. They're really covering it up there in a big way. And I don't think they should anymore, because it's disclosure. So why are we still...
Is it because, we've all heard these same stories out of Puerto Rico, and it's different there than it seems like anywhere else on the planet, because it's a small island. Everybody knows everybody. If you look at somebody, you know their house, right?
Yeah,
you know where they live, right? It's like that. So nobody wants to speak up because everybody knows everybody. They're in your business. And certainly the military is aware of all of this too. So people don't talk.
Exactly.
Right?
And then they eventually meet Jorge and feel comfortable to talk, maybe after a long time. And he has to keep them sometimes anonymous, sometimes not. I've got names for people that are happy to give their name. And there's other people who we keep anonymous.
Right,
because they might still work for the government.
Okay, I'm going to pull up this first image and tell us about what we are looking at here.
This is an amazing thing happened here. It's kind of cute, actually, really, because children are involved. First of all, there was a UFO scene. This is a little village at the just the area at the edge of El Yunque rainforest, and it's called Colinas del Yunque, and Colinas means little hills. And this is an area, there are a lot of banana trees, as you see. Just along with, this is my photo, Jorge took us here, and he explained how a lot of people in this village have contact, very good contact, with extraterrestrials. Some families that he's been interviewing, they just sort of call the ETs in, call the UFOs in, and they have whole, evenings of doing this. But this is during the day. One time, they saw a UFO over, like as if it was going to land in the forest, and then a little while later, 4 little greys came walking down that hill there, and their children, of course, were playing there, and they started following the greys, and so they were walking a little ahead. And the children were kind of walking behind them. And then the mothers saw what was happening. I'm sure some of the children must have gone and shouted for their mums to come out. And so they kept following them at a distance. And I asked Jorge, well, what did the greys wear? And he said they were wearing shorts, kind of tightly fitted shorts. And they look, they were kind of the same size as children, really, the small greys. So children kind of thought they were children, I think. And then one of the ETs looked back at them, and they telepathically picked up the feeling like, okay, don't come nearer. So they just kept a distance, and they followed them to the end of the road where it went into the forest. And so the 4 ETs went into the forest. But that's an amazing thing it was great to just be on the same street where that happened, actually.
And how many people live in the village?
Oh, I don't know. I should have asked him. It wasn't very big. If you're coming back out of El Yunque, it's on your left, and it says Colinas del Yunque, and it's a nice, peaceful little village with nice, pretty little houses.
So a few hundred people, probably.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
And the 4 kids were from the village.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There was more than 4. A few children. I don't know how many. The ETs, there was 4 ETs, and a few children. Yeah.
And when we have the village, okay. How you're saying that they have good contact, right?
Yes.
So it sounds to me like the kids weren't freaked out.
No,
they didn't go running back and which would freak out the village. That doesn't seem to be the case here.
No, and the ETs were very, not looking dangerous. They're small, and they're just walking along. going there, doing their own thing, going down the hill, just like it's normal everyday life, So I think, that's amazing. It was amazing to be there. I was always hoping to see something, but we didn't see anything. But yeah, people there know about the ETs, and I don't think it was any big deal, but it was the fact that they were walking down the main street, well, one of the streets in the middle. It was quite a big thing in the daytime.
I love the kids that recount their experiences.
Yes.
And one of the experiences tend to be, you don't really hear a kid go, they scared the crap out of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or no, you don't really hear that. They're more in amazement about what they're seeing and stuff. But kids haven't had the chance to grow up and learn to be afraid of things.
Yeah.
And, like adults are. But do you think that's why ET doesn't mind interacting with kids? Because kids don't go into freak out mode as easily.
Yeah, that's probably why, but also, again, they like to observe humans, especially in Puerto Rico. You hear that all the time, and they might have wanted to observe the children a bit as well, and then just say, let's walk through the village and then go back. I don't know how ETs think.
Yeah, well, but see, you've had a life of ET contact. And when you were a kid, did you lose your mind? Did you get scared?
Yeah, well, I didn't see grays. I've only had the experience of seeing beings that they wore robes. They kind of, I never really see their face, but I know they wear robes and they're kind of human looking. And it's like a class. I'm in like a studying. So that was my experience that I've had. But
did it scare you?
No,
Exactly.
not at all.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's actually, I felt a lot of unconditional love with everyone in this experiences that I've had. You feel this unconditional love for everyone in what I call a room, but it's not really a room. But
sure. But if you flip that over to being an adult, right? And you have this same exact group of ET, same room, same everything happen to you at the age of 50, 60, you may not think it's that kind of party.
Oh, but
right?
It has. Yeah, that has happened. But this is all it's like in my subtle body, and we would say Vedically, or psychic body. It's when I'm sleeping, but then it's real, because you're different when you wake up. You've been there, but it wasn't like an abduction by force. It's like, here you are. Oh, there I am. I sit at that desk. I know where I sit. I know this is what's happening. It's so comfortable. And like I said, you just kind of feel love for everyone. But I have had experiences of seeing scary beings because I've seen other dimensional beings. And I saw one when I was 2. Do you want me to just tell you about that quickly?
Sure. Sure. It's your show. I'm just the guy pressing play. Okay.
Yeah, because we're going to talk about beings that I've seen. But there was one, and my mother would say, right, the whole life, that we know that you saw something, and it must have been between 2 and 3. And this is a pier, on Worthing Pier, which is a beach, a beach in England, the south, and we'd go there a lot. And I loved the pavilions. I just loved them. So I was very comfortable. And I know that I was really young because I didn't always walk. I was holding both my parents' hands and kind of jumping over the holes in the wooden beams on the pier. Because I remember going up to the pavilion and being excited because there's little games you can play in there. When you put a penny in, it used to be you put a penny in, and there was no bright lights or loud sounds, and in those days, so it wasn't as scary in that way. And so we were going to go in. We just went in the door, and normally I'd be very excited, and I was. But then I saw on the opposite ceiling, on the right-hand side ceiling of the pavilion, a head was looking through. And it was like this head, and I couldn't even describe it to my parents. I just called it a funny man, which means a scary man. I'd use the word funny, like I didn't like Punch and Judy. They were supposed to be funny, but I always thought he was scary. So that was a puppet show, So he wasn't like that, this being. He had a big head, bigger than a human. And I knew that being was up the right way in his world. I knew that he thought he was up the right way. So it's like if we stuck our head through the ceiling and people were living upside down to us, or we would look and think, "Ha, how amazing!" But the thing is, he wasn't a good person or being. I knew that he was doing something, and I didn't. Now I know to call it he was taking energy, but I didn't know how to explain it then. He had his mouth open in a horrible smile, and of course the eyes were at the bottom and the mouth was there, and he kept looking around like this. And there was 2 children who were older than me, obviously, playing underneath. And I remember stretching my arm out and telling them, telling my parents, get them back. And I was screaming, and I didn't do that much, I was not really, that wasn't like me. And so my father picked me up and he took me outside again, and my mom was going to go in, but then I was trying to say, no, come out. And I was so upset. And so that's what I saw this being. So so my whole life, I know I saw the being. And we went back, of course, to check on it, and nothing is there. And there was no light up there or picture up there or anything unusual that I could have mistaken for something. So that was my scary being that I saw when I was 2. So there's all kinds of beings, as you know.
The mouth was on top, eyes below.
Yeah, because it's upside down.
Oh, I thought that was the way he was built. I was like, that ain't right. That would scare me.
He was upside down. So
he's upside down. Oh, okay.
It's like if we stuck our head through the ceiling and the world was upside down, we would see people walking and looking down on. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I knew he was doing that. I knew he felt at home where he was, and he was going, oh, like that. And taking, and that's what it was like. And I
like my ET better. Mouth on top, eyes below. I like mine better. So, so when did this incident happen with the kids at the village?
Let's see. You know what? I don't have a date on that one.
Okay.
I don't have a date.
We've got a lot to cover. Let's go to. Yeah, let's go to the next one. What am I going to pull up?
Do you want to pull up the crash and bounce? That's the boy looking at the crashed UFO on the mountain.
Got it. I got it right here.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's going on?
So this is what we call the crash and bounce. There's been 3 crashes over the years, and that we know about. But this was the 1984 one, and what happened was I'll tell it about what happened to the boys, and then I'll tell you about when we went to the crash site. So there's 3 teenage boys up on El Yunque on the tower, because you can have a lookout tower where you look out to see nature basically. And this UFO came down and crashed and bounced. So when it crashed into the forest there, you can see the picture. It caught fire to plants around it and everything, and then it bounced off into the Las Picachos, which is that mountain there. But the boys were up there, and then 2 of them said, we're going to run out of here. We can't stay here. And so they ran out. But this one boy, Jose Pagan, he stayed. He said, we've come this far to see anything, because they were looking for unusual things and what they could see. And he said, we've come this far. I want to see what happens here. And so he stayed longer. And then, so the other 2 boys are waiting for him. And then he didn't come back down. They saw him being taken away in a car to Roosevelt Roads Naval State Base. And so he was being arrested after seeing this crash. And this was a huge, I think it was 50 to 60 feet, this UFO. And then so his mother went to Roosevelt Roads and asked, for him to see him. And they said, oh, he's been taken to the mainland, to USA. because he's being accused of espionage, and he was like a teenager, maybe 20, but I think probably in his teens. So then she went to the US, to the base that they told her, and where he was supposed to be in jail, but he wasn't there. And so then we don't know what happened. And his name was Jose Pagan. So it would be great to know that maybe he's okay, and maybe he's listening to the show. That will be wonderful, but we don't know. And so the reason why we know about
wait. So Serena, when did this happen? What year?
This is in 84. This is
in 1984.
84.
This kid has been disappeared for 40 years.
Yes, but unless has appeared again and Jorge doesn't know it. But this is what happened, and they told him. So one of the boys, he grew up, obviously, and the reason why Jorge knows about it is he met one of the boys, and who not Jose, and who said that he had taken a photo, but the photo was destroyed it was in his phone, and his phone was destroyed during the Hurricane Maria, and his home was destroyed. So his where he lived, everything was destroyed at Hurricane Maria, but the photo was like this. So Jorge recreated the picture, and we want to thank Jorge again for a lot of the images I'm going to show. The ones that are recreated are from Jorge Martin, and he listens carefully to the witnesses and then has them approve what he creates to get a real picture of what happened.
Yeah, he's listening right now too.
Yeah.
By the way.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Well, he is.
Yeah. Well, he knows about it. He knows about the show. I hope he is.
Okay, so let me understand. 1984, the picture was taken. So it was on a film camera. It's before digital. It's before phones. When you said the picture was on his phone, they just digitized it and scanned it, and then
I don't know. He said, well, maybe he said camera. He said camera, but in 2017 though, that was when Hurricane Maria happened. That's when it was. He could have transferred it to his phone, because I think he said his phone was destroyed then. Is missing with the whole home that he had in that hurricane.
That's crazy. He's been disappeared for 40 years. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, which is everybody in Puerto Rico knows everybody. So if he showed back up on the island, people are going to see him. People would know. So he has been disappeared for 40 years.
Yes.
Wow.
And then we went to the crash site. So when we were with Jorge, actually we went that day from the photo that you saw. We went to a few different places, and one of them was, of course, a gate where it says you can't go through. It was saying, no trespassing, no cars, no people, nothing. So there's all over the place. There's these gates that you're not supposed to go through, and it's usually places that have been, ETs or something has taken place. Anyway, so we went through it. Douglas was first in that one. I'm usually the first to go through, but Douglas was first. And Jorge stayed in the car because he might have to move the car because you're not allowed to park near it. So he was waiting, and we went through, and he said, look on your left. And so the whole area on the left was, trees, but they were lower. All the bushes and trees were lower because they hadn't grown as much as some of the other ones. And this whole area had been recovered. It had been, so the whole area that we went to look at, when after the crash had happened and things had caught fire, they had shut it down, and the naval station had gone in there and taken away all the surface, and then recovered it with all different kinds of gravel, or mostly black gravel, and there were still piles of gravel in there, so to make it that people couldn't possibly find a thing, just in case. And also there was a picnic area there, and they had refurbished it. They had put new chairs and everything. It looked nice, but then it was overgrown because they saying, oh, it's nice now that that's what we were doing. We were recovering everything, resurfacing, and but still you can't go in there easily, but once you get through that gate, you can see these things. That was really interesting to
What's the missing kid's name again? Well, now he would be
Jose
50s.
Pagan. Jose, and then it's Pagan. Pagan.
Okay, Jose Pagan. Jose would be now 50 to 55 years old. If he was 15 then, right? Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, he said they were youths. So I imagine, teenager.
Did you say youths?
Youths.
Youths. They were youths. Okay, next case. That's My Cousin Vinny. My Cousin Vinny, best movie ever.
I know, isn't it good? I remember that.
You caught that, right? Did you say youths?
Yeah, exactly.
Youths. Okay. Next case.
That's why people are scared to speak. There's an example right there,
Yeah.
So how about the children dressed as Eskimos? What about that one? That's
really let's pull that. I'm very, very, very curious about this. Let me pull it up. I have it right here. And you can do the translation. No, we don't. No, actually, no, we're good. Okay, here we go.
I'm going to tell the whole story, even if there's some writing on it. Yeah. So this was seen. There was a man and a woman. They were visitors to El Yunque, and they were walking up a hill in the forest, just looking at everything. And then they saw two soldiers entering a restricted area, one of those restricted areas again. And the soldiers left the gate open. So they thought, well, let's walk through. And when they walked through, they were on a narrow lane through the forest. I've been like that. I've been through a lot of those. And it was split into two at one point. So the soldiers went left. So they thought, oh, we'll turn right because they're going that way. And they went up this road, and they encountered these children playing up there. But they were dressed as Eskimos, really wrapped up warm. And they had blonde hair. This is really interesting because they weren't Eskimos. They had blonde hair, and they were really pale, like white, like really pale. And it was, they couldn't believe, why are they wrapped up like this? And they like it, or they would they would take off their coats. It seemed like they needed that. But the children were acting a bit scared of them. So they thought, oh, we better go back down. So then they went back down. But my idea of that is those were tall whites. Don't you think? They sound like tall whites, because the tall whites are people often describe them as wrapping up and covering, really warm, and wearing gloves and scarves and things.
Well, you don't know about their anatomy, right? You don't know what is hot and what is cold to them.
Yeah.
Now the jungles of Puerto Rico are just like any Caribbean country. Hot, humid. The last thing you want is clothes on. It's a clothing optional island. And no, you know what I'm saying,
exactly.
Right?
It's so hot, even in winter. Exactly.
I lived in Panama for 3.5 years. Okay. I wore socks 3 times to the proms. Other than that, I'm wearing surfer slaps, right?
Yes.
That's what we called them back then. I don't know what they call them now. But yeah, this is an OPP, an out of place person. Right?
Oh, that's
you like
really
that?
Great.
You like that? You like that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's an OPP. That doesn't make any sense. And
Charles Hall talks about in the book, in his books, Millennial Hospitality, he talks about how they were covered up, and it's even in the desert. And actually, if we got time, I could tell a story about somebody, an account of somebody who was a guest at UFO Congress, who described seeing some tall whites.
It's your show. You
Yeah,
do what you want.
I might run out of time, but so when I read Charles Hall's books about the tall whites, I wasn't sure if he exaggerated, or I wasn't quite sure. And
Mhm.
then I heard on a radio show, it was actually Jerry Pippin, if you remember him, Jerry
I
Pippin.
do remember Jerry
Yeah.
Pippin. Yeah.
He was at the UFO Congress, and he was interviewing people who were just guests, just attendees. And he says, "Well, who did you come and see and today, and who do you want to hear from?" And speaker. And so the guest, the attendee said, "Oh, I've come to see Charles Hall because I think I saw the tall whites years ago in Las Vegas, and I thought they were people who were not well." And so he said they were going up an escalator. There was 3 of them, and it was in the Tropicana, and they were wrapped up in coats, and they had scarves, and they had like spindly blonde hair sticking out of their hats. And I thought, this is so weird for them to have, gloves as well, and then be so pale. And he kept staring, and then he thought, oh, I'm being rude because obviously these people have an illness, so I shouldn't be staring.
Right. See, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem. You see something, an OPP, right? You see not a place person, and then you're not allowed to look. That's against right. That's not polite.
Made me think that those children could be tall white children, and the story. You shouldn't go near them. They don't like the tall whites don't like anyone going near their children. So it's really good those people left. And it could be that the military are hosting tall whites as well as all the other ETs in El Yunque rainforest. Isn't that exciting?
What I always enjoyed about Charles Hall's description, and I'm with you. I'm not 100% all in on all of it, but his one observation that he made, Serena, has always stuck with me. He thought, which nobody's ever said anything like this. He thought the adult was the teacher and was teaching the kid.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is dirt. This is sand. Or whatever it was. But there was instruction. It was a teacher-student interaction thing that was going on out there, and that's what he observed. And I always thought about that. I thought, what an he didn't say, something, bombastic, right? They materialized out of a spaceship and then they floated across the sand and they had laser guns. That's not what he said.
Yeah.
He said that he was teaching the students. And I think at one point there was a group of kids there another time, and that he felt that that's what was going on. It was like a classroom, the teacher leading them out on a field trip. I always thought that was just compelling.
It was so interesting. Yeah. So when I heard that this person had seen similar beings, that made me much more convinced about the books, because this was just an attendee come there because he had seen something and wanted to meet Charles Hall.
Would you go up to somebody in public and go, "Hey, I just got a question. I don't want this to be weird, but are you guys hybrids?" I mean, would you do that? Would you do that?
If they really look like them, it would be hard not to now. I used to be much more shy, but I think now I would do it. And
because you hang out with me.
I did meet a hybrid but she told me she was when Barbara Lamb was speaking at MUFON.
Is that right?
Yeah. I could see she was very pointed chin. Her chin came to a point, and it was cold, but she just had little tiny straps on, like a person would want to put a shawl on or something. But she wasn't cold. Different kind of ET. That was.
But I've done it a few times now. No, more than a few. And I try to be funny about it. I don't want to freak people out. So I crack a little joke or something. But there's been a few times where I've just kind of, but I can't, me, Serena. I've got a loud mouth, and when I think something, it happens to come out. I can't. So many times I want to catch the words and pull them back, but it's too late. I've already said them.
Actually, I did see someone at my temple, Hare Krishna temple, once, and I said to her that you look like someone from a higher planetary system. You know, like as a compliment, because we all know the higher planetary systems, they're beautiful. So I just said that because I really thought she was. I haven't seen her. You could say that. That's a compliment, isn't it, really?
And what if they, so what if they come back with, okay, I am, and here is a communicator if you want to talk to me.
I'd love that.
And wouldn't that be cool?
That's the kind of thing I think about all the time. Things like that.
I was talking, and then we're gonna move on to another case here. No, we'll take a break and then we'll come back and continue. But I have mentioned a lot on this show that ever since I was a little kid, and I haven't had this dream in the last couple of years, but I used to have it all the time. Very vivid. And the best way to describe it is like, and this isn't an ego thing. I just want everybody to picture this in their head. I'm kind of like Captain Kirk or one of the people on the Enterprise, standing on the command deck, looking out the windows and watching space roll by. Right. Yeah. And now I'm not saying I was the captain of the ship. I'm saying I'm part of the crew or whatever. And I'm standing there watching, and it's very vivid. And I always thought from when I was a little kid that this was going to eventually happen. I had the dream that much, like one day, right? Yeah. Oh, wouldn't that just be the most amazing thing to be able to do? You and I standing there going, okay, warp 5, go.
Well, it might be happening when you're sleeping and you travel there. Like I've had those classes. And of course, Douglas was taken on board, as you know, and that was in Puerto Rico. And so, I mean, that's as he was going to sleep in the hypnagogic state, when we're very peaceful and tuned into those things. So I think that it could be happening and we forget, because sometimes I have experiences and they're running away from, like I wake up and they're running away from me, the memories, and I know I learned something, I saw something, and I can't remember it. And so I have to, if I repeat it immediately to Douglas, that if I had an experience, then I'll remember it, but I could easily forget. It's amazing how that happens.
Like 2 months ago, and then we'll take a break. Like 2 months ago, I'm listening to a book on tape. It's physics, it's science, not that big of a deal, time or whatever. And I wake up at about 3 a.m. out of a dream that I remembered vividly because I woke up in the middle of it and I was terrified. You know what I was dreaming? That I was hiding in a tree from aliens. And I had climbed a tree and the aliens were below me. And I'm trying to and I'm in this tree. And it was a nightmare. Yeah. No, it's not, this isn't cute, funny, and I woke up, Serena, I woke up, I put my feet on the floor. I was like, whew.
Yeah.
I can't go back to sleep. I'm not going back to that one. I got to change this channel. It was crazy. It was crazy how scared I was. I was in a tree. I was in a tree, like faking like I was a branch.
Oh, it's amazing. And they're so telepathic. They probably know you were there.
They were down there. They were down like little golems, little
but,
golems.
They don't always, because there's a few things. There was one time when he was walking through the rainforest, but it was more of a bushy, grassy area. And they're like a little pathway. And ET came towards him and they both were scared. And both ran. I think that's so funny that ET ran back and he ran back when they didn't know they were going to sort of bump into each other. So they don't know everything.
No, they don't. They don't. Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, the one and only Serena Wright Taylor. We're talking about her recent trip to Puerto Rico. What did she find out? Well, that's why this show was called Puerto Rican ET Contact. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. Hi, this is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I want to invite you to come to Alaska with me on the Contact at Sea cruise. It is this September 6th through the 13th, 2024. We are on the largest ship in the Pacific Ocean. That's right, the Ovation of the Seas. It's an amazing cruise, and a ship this big is so much fun. We've got lots of activities and lots of great speakers. We are leaving from Seattle to Sitka, Alaska, Skagway, Juneau. We're going to end the cruise in Victoria, BC, and arrive in Seattle on September 13th. We've got a lot of amazing speakers, including we've got Seth Shostak, Scott Walter, Stephen Bassett, Daniel Sheehan, Daryl Sims, Mas Adi, Vivian Chavez, Grant Cameron, Geraldine Orozco, Misha Johnston, and Melanie Aguirre, and a whole lot more. All you have to do is go to divinetravels.com. You can also go to contactatsea.com. Both are going to take you to a full event schedule. You can check in, look at the boat, get things ready to go, and maybe get a cabin with a balcony. That's what I'm talking about. Come see the whales. Come check it all out. Let's go to Alaska this September 6th through the 13th, 2024 with me, Jimmy Church. Now, when you head to divinetravels.com or contactatsea.com and get signed up, you know what? Use my name, Jimmy Church. I'll see you there September 6th through the 13th, 2024. Let's go to Alaska. This is Jimmy Church. Please visit and explore Egypt this October 3rd through the 14th, 2024 with Billy, Elizabeth, myself, and very special guest and the #1 podcaster in the world, Sean Kelly. It's simple to do. Just go to forbiddenknowledge.com and click on upcoming tours, or click on the link below. We'll see you there. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at J Church Radio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black t-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 t-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. Get your Fade to Black t-shirt today. Go Backley Tappy. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Serena Wright Taylor is with us. I wanted to mention really quick before I bring Serena back on. Last night, Paul Hynek and I were talking, and I mentioned whales. You know, we're going to Alaska. I cannot wait. And on the last cruise that I was on, I saw whales twice. And when you see them in person like that in the wild, it's insane. And I was having breakfast. I was on my balcony, and room service brought me breakfast. I did it once. I didn't do it every day, but I was out there, had the whole spread, got my feet kicked up, and I'm just looking at the Pacific Ocean boats cruise. And I happened to look at the right place at the right time, my eyes. And I see this gray, it was the color gray. I don't know if it was a gray whale. It was a gray whale. I don't know if it was the species gray whale. Come out of the water, not that far from the ship, just come out, curve up, and then go back down. I was in shock. The size of it, man, it was just crazy. And that was it. It didn't come back up or anything, but I just watched it arch out of the water. And then when we were in port, I want to say this was Cabo. We were pulling out the ship, and somebody starts saying, "There's whales, there's whales." And we were pulling up on the little tender boat thing. And I look over, and there is a whale. It's there. So what I hurried up with everybody, got on the ship, went up and out and looked, and they were circling, and it was a mom and 2 baby whales swimming with her, and they were just going around the ship. It was the coolest thing, man. It was just amazing. I just love that. Okay, so Serena, yeah. Puerto Rico, right? We've got a lot of people in the chat tonight from Puerto Rico, and I love that. Big interest in this. Where are we going next?
Next, Camp Santiago. And I think you have a picture of that.
I do, right here. You like that? Was that fast enough?
Yeah, very.
Okay, there it is. Welcome to Camp Santiago, training site for the Puerto Rico National Guard. Okay, what happened?
Well, a young man was in the ROTC, and he was visiting the Camp Santiago base, and it's near Salinas in the southwest, where the Sierra Mameyra are, and where the lake is and everything. And he accidentally saw some extraterrestrials. For a very short time, he saw them at this base. And there was a couple of other boys with him, too, in the ROTC. And the officers told them that they're refugees. They actually started telling them what the ETs were doing there. And they said They were trying to find a place to live because they had been persecuted on their planet, and they had been separated from the others, and they'd fled to different parts, different planets for asylum. And however, they didn't trust their helicopters. And when they were going to put them in a helicopter to take them perhaps to a different part of the island, they wouldn't want to get in. They didn't trust them. And this was 1985. And of course, I asked Jorge, why did they tell him all that information? And he said, because afterwards they gave them a drug and they forgot about it. And what happened was, this boy, when he was, more recently, he'd grown up, and he had read a story or an account that Jorge had written in a magazine, either in his magazine or another one, about ETs, obviously, not necessarily there. And it all came flooding back, his memories of seeing them there, and then thinking, why didn't we remember that? And then remembering being given a drug before they left. And then that's why he had spent this whole time not knowing about it, and then it suddenly come into his head. And it's incredible. And I was thinking, well, how would they take a drug, But then if it's the military giving it to them, they're in the ROTC, they could have said, it's a tablet, they had to take a pill. And he could have said, oh, you could have been near something that had some radiation. We take these to be sure. Just take that and you'll be okay. They could have said something like that, just innocently.
Back then, we never. How many times, I can't even count, when I was a kid, how many shots I got. And never, right? They would just, everybody leave the classroom, get in line, pop shots. And it was like every year, and nobody protested. I didn't go home to my parents and go, I got shots today. Nobody said, no, it was just, what happened. So,
there is something like that.
I totally understand that.
I was reading that had happened to a couple of men who had seen something at Laguna Cartagena before all those explosions. I think I talked about them in the last show, the explosions that happened around Laguna Cartagena in 87, 88, underground, and the blue smoke. Before all that happened, they saw some military people putting big tubes into the lake and said, we're going to do an experiment. And it was connected with ETs, obviously, but they had obviously seen too much, and they woke up on a road leading out of the mountains. So they couldn't remember what happened after they had seen that. And they had been taken to see, I think, a higher up military person. And they couldn't remember anything after that. And they woke up. So I completely understand how that could have happened, and how then he remembered it and then got in touch with Jorge to tell him.
Well, do you remember in the movie Arrival, there's a classic scene in there that just reminded me of my childhood. So when they arrive and they go into the tents, and they go, first you got to go see the doctor. So they go in, and the doctor goes, okay, got a bunch of shots we're going to give you. And they're like, for what? And he goes, well, we're going to give you an immune. We're going to give you this. We're going to give you a booster. We're going to, and okay, let's go. And that's the way it was. Yeah. I remember when I moved to Panama, I had to go to the hot. They gave me shots for, I don't even know. I don't even know how many shots I got, because I was moving to Panama, and, I get it, malaria or whatever, but I have no idea. And back then we never protested. Today, you're like, what are you going to shoot into my son? Right. What are you going to do with my dog? What's going on here? You want a full list. Yeah. Back then, it was just like shot day at school. Right? So and if it's ROTC program and this is a base and this is what is said, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
What's interesting about that story though is the ET didn't want to get on the helicopter.
Yes.
And you know why? It's not necessarily the helicopter. It's the technology of the helicopter. ET's used to an interdimensional craft that folds space.
Yes, exactly.
Not a Fred Flintstone thing that is
Exactly.
burning gasoline, right?
Yes, that's what I was
Combustion
thinking.
with blades on it. So there's some prehistoric craft. I'm not going on that thing.
Yes,
No.
it's prehistoric to them. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking.
That thing flies? No, I'm not getting on that.
No, they wouldn't want to get
It
on
makes
that.
it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. So that's Camp Santiago. And what year did that happen?
And that was 84. But of course,
again in 84.
Yeah, all these things are going on. Who knows now? Right now, something's going on there that someone's going to talk about in a few years. It's like so much is going on in Puerto Rico, and they talk about it later. So we don't know what's going on right now. We'll find out.
Yeah, for sure.
And also, we haven't. Jorge doesn't know every single thing that's happened, but he's always asking people. And even when we were at the restaurant, he was asking them, "Have you seen a UFO? Have you got any stories to tell us?" And the waiter hadn't actually, but that's what he does. He goes around and asks people, and some of them are very happy to talk, and some of them are scared to talk about it.
Ken Priest just said, he goes, Panama, Van Halen, Jimmy's favorite band, Trippy. What he meant to say was Jimmy just showed his Panama tattoo.
Oh.
I got this when I think I was 14 years old. If my daughters did that, they would be grounded for life. Anyway, so I paid $1 for this tattoo, right? Back in 78 or something. But I enjoyed Panama, and I just always wanted to remember it. To my shock was when my favorite band, Van Halen, and I'm a young kid, comes out with a song called Panama. I was like, wow, that's kind of weird. That's kind of weird. But anyway, so there you go. Okay. What's up next?
So let's look at the radar station. And we'll follow that with the actual crash picture, because we're going to talk about the 1994 crash where it went into two pieces. But I think you have a picture of the radar station, so we know where this happened. So the crash isn't in this picture, but this is the station. And this is where this man who worked in the forestry service was coming up there. He was in the forest, but he was going up towards the station. And I'm going to call him Javier so that we know who, give him a name. But that's not his name. He's anonymous because he still works for the government. And he has been recently talking about this to Jorge. And he said he will maybe do an interview in the future. So Jorge's still in contact with him and hoping that he'll do a personal interview and give his name. But we'll just call him Jorge now. And so he was up there in the forest part doing some work. And they start very early in the morning in the forestry service. They usually meet about 6. So he was up there in the early morning, and they came upon a crashed craft. So you can put the picture up of the crash. It was in two pieces. So it had happened probably early morning before he got there, because it had only recently happened. He could tell the steam coming off the ground, and all over the ground there was glass-like material, and it was metallic material and glass all over the ground. And of course, the plants crushed down, and he was there before the military arrived. When you see the picture, it shows the military there, but he was there before, and a couple of people with him who also was working with the forestry service. So, and this is a recreation, of course, according to, and he approved this picture, as Jorge usually does these expert pictures that are recreations of what a person saw. And so he could hear movement. So there's no one there except him and a couple of others. And they could hear movement inside the craft in the part that was intact, because one part was completely destroyed. And the sound was like a high-pitched sound of like a speeded up recording. And I always do an impersonation of that when I talk. I was going like this, like like that. So
wow.
everyone laughed. I just did that in
Well
that's ET
done.
language.
I learned something about you every time you're on the show, Serena. So you speak Zeta Reticulan. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that. You do that well. So what happens next with this?
Yeah, so he could hear that going on, and then all the stuff on the ground, and then the recovery team arrived, and so they had these coveralls on, and so they had some of them jumped into the craft, and they carried out that. So there was some dead ETs that they carried out in their arms and put them into the trucks, and there were also some alive. And when the men entered it, one of the ones that, of course, that was alive tried to grab this long kind of a tube. It could have been a weapon or something. He tried to grab this tube, but all the men jumped on him and put him in handcuffs, and then carried him out. And they handcuffed all the aliens that were alive and carried them out. And I thought, well, I don't like to hear that because it's not very diplomatic.
No, not cool. Not cool.
No. But maybe the ET knew that was going to happen. That's why he's grabbing that tube thing. So then Javier, he saw them put them in the front of the vehicle if they were alive, and the dead ones in the back. And they also put pieces of craft in the back of the truck. And when they saw him, of course, they knew that these guys were there. They were supposed to be there working for the government. So they knew that they were, not there for that reason, that they were there to work. So they just warned them not to say anything. And so that he hasn't said anything for years, but he's beginning to say some things now. And we're not using his name. So that's what happened. And then after that, or actually, we can show a picture of what kinds of trucks they use for this.
Okay. Hang on.
Yeah, Jorge had recreated this because if you're up there in the forest and you see this truck and there's people in these outfits, there's some alien activity. It's not just for crashes, but for any kind of alien activity. Generally, they'll bring these black trucks and they'll be in these kind of coveralls to remove whatever's there.
Here in Palmdale, we call those food trucks. But now I know why. Now I know why they're there. Yeah, it makes sense. You would disguise an alien recovery vehicle as a food truck.
Yeah,
right.
It could.
And that's a movie.
Yes,
we need to make that movie.
Yeah.
We need
I'm often looking for things like that. You wouldn't believe it. I often look for time travelers. I look for weird trucks. Not just in Puerto Rico. That's how my mind works. So then later on, he started looking around a bit more. So when he was up in the forest, he would go up to places very high up because he'd heard there was something going on or where that happened. And he went on the same person, Javier, he went up and found these beings that were looking at the trees and examining the trees. So you have that picture also by Jorge Martin. And this is according to what he saw exactly. So he went, he saw these ETs, and they are examining the trees with some kind of thing that looked like a little telescope-like instrument. You can see it sparkles when they pointed at the tree. And they were also interested in some rocks as well. And these beings were picking up some black rocks that also had some sparkles on them. That the rocks did have a kind of gold sparkle on them as well. And they were interested in the trees, and they were interested in these rocks. And so
now, so I'm understanding who saw this and when.
The same person, Javier. He's the same person that had seen the crash. He didn't talk about it, but he kept walking around looking for things. So, he began to be aware of the areas where these things happen. So he wanted to go and find something else. So one day he did. He went with all these ETs doing this work. It's as if they were doing some work that they had to do. examining.
Now, I
truly.
think everybody's noticing the same thing. These ETs are all like an aquamarine, except for this guy.
Yes,
Right here.
yes. And that
What's
one,
going on?
he would have described that. And I didn't ask Jorge exactly what that guy's doing, but this is all according to what this man, Javier, said. So there would be that being maybe, kind of in charge or something like that. That's the feeling I got from looking at it,
Because he's got a different color uniform.
Yes.
3 fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He might have another finger. He has the little boots. The boots are white.
Maybe there's something curling here.
You often hear about the beings wearing boots, and sometimes they're black. Some kinds of beings have black boots. I remember hearing about some beings that had black boots with silver button kind of things on them, and these ones have white. So it's really interesting about that. They do wear boots.
Yeah, this is fascinating.
Isn't it incredible? So they're all getting on. He saw that. They're all getting along with their work there. So, of course, he starts looking for these black rocks. Actually, so did I, of course, once I heard that story. But I didn't find any. But, yeah, he started looking for the black rocks. And so he was going down. He found one as he was coming down the hill, and he was carrying it. And then up on the same, track came a military man, a soldier, and he said, "Give me that rock." So he gave it to him. You can't argue, right? But he had one in his hand. I don't know what it is about those rocks. They're particular, and they've got little gold speckles. So he said, "Give it to me," he said. So he did. But yeah, I was looking for those.
I wonder what. Wonder what made them so special.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they could have been, were they meteors, or I don't know. But
Could be.
were interested, and they were collecting them.
Well, that's interesting. You said gold sparkles. I mean, I always thought that about, here's meteorite. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if I hold this, my cameras are not autofocus. Okay. These are black magic cameras. They have fixed lenses on them. So I can't, if I hold this up to the camera, it's going to go out of focus. But what you can see as it's back here, it sparkles in gold, right? Now, I don't know if that's gold in there or what it is, but you can see the gold tones. You see it?
Yes.
So maybe that's what they were looking for. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah,
Man, what a great show. Okay, let's keep going. What's next?
All thanks to Jorge for sharing this. I'm so grateful. So the next one is my favorite. It's about Rosario Gomez. And she was a former employee of the U.S. Forestry Service. And she experienced seeing these beings, multiple humanoid beings. She called them humanoid beings, as well as seeing where they live. So this is
so I'm going to pull up. As you start this, I'm going to pull up one of her drawings of these beings. So let's pull this up first. Go ahead.
Yeah. So there's one. So she worked in the rainforest every day, and she started working for the Forestry Service because she loved nature. She really appreciated, nature and wanted to do good work, and she was very connected to nature. And so she would be sent to various sites, which they called plots in the forest for the Forestry Service that they have in El Yunque. And she started working first as a volunteer, and then they gave her a contract and paid her to work. So the crew would meet at 6 a.m., and sometimes she was sent deep into the forest. Sometimes she would notice living things that would whoosh past her very fast from one place to another. And they were bright colors, like blue and red and yellow, just going whoosh, whoosh. And she would see them sometimes in front of her, between her and other people, and sometimes between her and a tree. So sometimes in the background, but sometimes they were right next to her. And so she would see these sometimes and not other days. And she couldn't believe how fast they would go. But then she would ask the people that she was working with, the other people for the Forestry Service. And they said, "Oh, they're parrots." And she says, no, they're not parrots. I know what parrots are like. And these are moving too fast to be parrots. And so then she would ask them again and again. And then they would say, leave that alone. We don't talk about that. They would say things like that to her. And she could also hear sometimes very fast talking sounds, like there was a communication. And it was not exactly like the ETs that we talked about before. It was more like a wee-oo, like that. But it didn't sound like a parrot or any animal. It sounded like some kind of communication. But she just loved working in the forest, and she kept going, and she was very spiritual. And sometimes they would laugh at her because she would hug the trees or talk to the trees. And you know what's really interesting is I've noticed that people who love nature, they get approached by extraterrestrials more comfortably, more naturally, if they appreciate something. So just like my husband Douglas, he was really appreciating the ocean when he was surfing, and then he had his ET experience. And so she did as well. And I've heard this before, people who are connecting with nature, and then they have very nice ET experiences. So then another day, or a little bit, actually about a year after that, she was had a new contract, and this was in a program, a study program, and she was helping a girl who was studying for her master's degree, a student. And so they were going on to one of these plots in the forest so the student could learn. And they followed the Espiritu Santo River to the mountains. So this is a river that comes from the mountain, El Yunque Mountain. And they went to separate areas. So the girl who was the student, she went kind of on one side around the mountain, and Rosario was in the other side. And they could hear each other if they shouted. So they knew, that they could just shout to each other. So then she began seeing those colors again, those bright colors whizzing by. And then she realized someone was following her because she could hear footsteps. And if she turned around, there would be nothing. This has happened before to people as well. There would be nothing there. And then she walked a bit further, and then she heard them again. They would start again. And then she looked around and there was nothing. And she even had her hand on her machete in case it was a dangerous person or something. She had a hand on it just in case she had to defend herself. And she felt like she was in danger. And so she kept stopping and looking around. And then at one time after she'd done that a little bit, a being appeared behind her. And it was the drawing that she did. And she described it as having an egg-shaped head and pointed eyes and large ears and no hair. That's like her drawing. And she was petrified at first and just couldn't move. She just sort of stood in front of the being and didn't move. And then the being started smiling, even though it didn't have teeth, it was smiling. And then other beings were around her. And you could show the picture, if you like, of the other beings. And they all had bright colored clothing that was metallic, but it was all those colors that she'd been seeing whiz through the trees. They were all wearing them, and they had no weapons, and they were all smiling. So then she calmed down, and she wasn't so scared. And she described their skin as pale green, and I've heard her whole interview and had it translated because I could understand some Spanish, but some I couldn't. So I had her whole interview. And then she said it was kind of a pale green, but she can't really be sure of the exact color. And she said there was about 50 of them all around the area looking at her and smiling. And they were all wearing
50.
Exactly. Yeah, they were all, not all close to her, but they were all around the area, and there was some close and then some all dotted around, smiling. And
can I ask you a quick question? Yeah. They look like children here. Are they young ETs, or is this just their size?
She called them, little men,
Right.
That's what she called them. And so I think that they're like the Greys, how they're small size, and they had exactly that head, and they had pointed ears. So they're not exactly like Greys at all. They got
they're not.
ears.
They're not.
Yeah.
They're not. No, another species.
They're more. Yeah, she called them humanoids, And
Was she ever intimidated or scared?
just at the beginning when she was petrified.
Right, right.
When because the being was coming up behind her, and that whole experience of hearing it and then turning and then seeing it right in front of her. When she turned, it was right there in front of her, and then it smiled, and then she relaxed because she saw it didn't have weapons. She saw none of them had weapons. And then
okay, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Then she said, of course, the same things we all say. I've heard it so many times. I mean, even when we meet people, right? Who are you? Where are you from?
Of course.
Why are you here? And they didn't answer, but they started heading towards the mountain. It was right next to her, because she's at the top, really. And so they started heading towards it. And then she saw a fuchsia color, that pinky color, over the mountain in front, like a cloud. And then a bright light in the middle of that pinky color. And then she realized that the mountain was opening, and the beings were heading to go into it. And so it appeared in the middle, and then she realized it was opening, and the light was shining from inside it. And it was a yellow-orangey color, and then it became a magenta color. And this door opened to a brilliant underground city. She could see structures inside the mountain, inside this light that they were all going towards. And beings went in, and then it gradually closed again slowly. And she was, just transfixed watching this. And it took about 10 minutes for the whole thing to happen. It took about 10 minutes for it to happen. And then the other girl came running to her after it had closed and said, "Why didn't you answer me? I've been shouting, I've been calling you." And then she looked at her face and said, "You look like you've seen a ghost," the girl said, because she was pale. But Rosario didn't tell her what happened because the girl was already acted a bit nervous and scared in general, the student. So she didn't want to tell her what actually happened just then. But that is incredible, because that really shows us again interdimensional, other dimensions. This is not a technology we understand. And who knows how much, beings, how many beings of different kinds are living inside the mountain, all the mountains of El Yunque. And there's about 4 mountains there. And people have seen UFOs going to all of them. And also under the sea or under the ground.
It's interesting how she brings up a machete. And unless you live or have lived, it's one thing to visit. But once, you are a part of the Caribbean or Central or South America, and that's where you live, everybody has a machete. It's like a medieval film, right? Where everybody's walking around with a sword, right?
Yeah.
Well, I remember the culture shock of seeing that, like, for the first time. It's like, okay, so everybody has one, right? You're looking around because to keep the jungle back off of your house, I mean, it'll overtake your house in a week, right? So you're always hacking at that. But the other thing is, if you intend to walk anywhere off of a sidewalk and into the jungle, you have to have a machete. That's the only way to get through. Whack, 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 whack. And everybody's got them. And they're big, they are heavy, and they are designed to chop your way through stuff. And that's a very interesting point that she brings up. I've got my machete. Of course she does. And when people hear that, it doesn't compute. You have to understand, it's a way of life. Everybody's got a machete.
She's working for the Forestry Service as well.
Yeah. Everybody's got a machete.
Yeah. And an interesting thing is, a little later than that, her friends invited her to see a medium. There was a famous medium in, I don't know which part, probably San Juan. And so she was going to see, this medium where there was a big audience. And during the whole evening, the lady who was the medium, she said, "Who's Rosario? I have a message for Rosario." And she didn't want to put her hand up, a bit shy. And then after nobody else put their hand up, so she put her hand up and said, "I'm Rosario." And she said, "Well, there's very colorful beings around you. And they're not like your ancestors or human."
Did you tell me about this before?
I might have because I was very excited about it. So I probably told you about it. Yeah. I might have told you about it at Contact in the Desert. Did I?
Right.
Or on the phone.
And when her friend, the other interesting part about this is when her friend comes up, Rosario now has a decision to make. Do you tell your friends that you just watched a parade of multicolored aliens, right?
Yes.
Walk into a doorway into the mountain? Do you tell her that? Or do you just go, I was just out here hanging out? Well, that's a tough. What do you do? What do you do with something like that? Today, maybe, that's tough,
Yeah.
And so Rosario chose the safe road, and I
there's no one
understand that.
else around. There's nowhere they can go get into like other people's civilization, so to speak. So the girl would have been quite scared because she said she was already nervous up there, and so she didn't want to scare her some more. She was trying to do her thesis with Florence. She couldn't put that in the thesis.
How old was she? Like 20?
I probably have that in my notes actually, but I don't have it in front of me now. She was younger then. So, and she's been talking about that. The picture I showed you is with an interview with Jorge, and she doesn't mind her name being said or anything. She's fine with that now.
Where's the picture of her with Jorge?
Oh, I didn't send you that.
Okay.
Did I send you that? No.
No.
I've got so many pictures that I didn't send, but I did. If you saw any bits of my talk at Contact in the Desert, I did use the picture with Jorge. So I just didn't want to send too many for you to get overwhelmed.
That's fine. When you had said earlier, and I don't want this to get away from me, you feel that something is about to explode out of Puerto Rico. And is this the local talk, or do you know of something? And when you say it's about to, you mean like this year?
Not necessarily. I just think that how can they cover it up any longer? I think Jorge feels that too. They're still trying to cover it up, and it's so much is happening. And now people have phones with, video, and people are coming and communicating more with other people, and mostly, most of their experiences are really good, So how can it keep being covered up? It's incredible. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And Jorge really wants everyone to know, about it, so that he's been doing this for years and hearing people's stories and experiences for years. So if they disclosed even part of it, I don't think people would be scared. I think mostly they would be happy to hear these stories.
And before we run out of time, let me take advantage of having you on the show to ask you where we are headed right now. I'm looking on my phone. I don't think you can see it. Let me get rid of this stuff here. Hold on for a second. So what I have on my phone is the alignment of the planets, right? That's my app. Can you see it?
I can't, not exactly, but yeah. Okay. I can see that. Yeah.
I've got too many lights here in the studio. And what is interesting about this is right now, all of the planets are in like 1/4 of the star system.
Yeah.
and what's coming up with us? What's on the near, because this is unique. You never,
Yes.
to see all of the planets grouped together like that, and a little shortly, they're all going to be in one complete straight line. This is what, excuse me, what does that mean for us?
Well, it's interesting because as far as if you're thinking about, like negative things, I thought there will be something happen when we had the square of, I'm not looking in my head, when was that? The square of Mars to Pluto. And we thought, of course, there's fires now. And I think that's probably when it started. There's fires. But nothing so bad happened. But what we did have, in the time that I was in Puerto Rico, that Douglas and I were there this last time, I did it astrologically because it was during the conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus. And that is actually a very good thing. And it can be an expansion of knowledge into things that are way advanced. And so I was there hoping, of course, I did learn a lot about ETs, but I was hoping to have maybe even more of an experience with ETs myself. But yeah, I think that it did bring some more openings and more knowledge. And so although it's bad and it's a pull on, it can cause earthquakes sometimes when the planets are all pulling in one part of the sky. But the conjunctions that's already happened, and the movement of Jupiter now in Vedic, it's Taurus now. I know tropical had it already there, and maybe in Gemini now. But we are a bit behind, but we're more correct. But this is
see, you just did it. You just did it. You just did it.
It's not really there. It's not really in Gemini. It's really in Taurus.
You just did
it. If you look in the sky, that's where Jupiter is. It's in
Wait, I'm going to quote. I'm going to get a T-shirt made for Serena. We're right.
Yes, Serena is right. Yeah, that's what I've often said. When you tell me I'm wrong, I tell you that. I remind you that. So I think that, in other words, there's more knowledge coming. There's more realizations. There's more revelations. And I don't think it can be stopped. So along with all the negative stuff that's going on, perhaps keep our minds off the truth of ETs, all these, upsetting things. There's also incredible realizations and inspiration. And so let's keep trying to tune into this. And that kind of technology that they have, it just shows, it proves to us there's other dimensions. We know that Rosario is a real person, that she really saw these things, and that other people are experiencing these things. And it reminds me really, in the Vedic teachings, there's a whole lot of information about the beautiful cities like Dwarka that were gold, that were shining gold in the other yugas, in Dwapara Yuga, which is very advanced yuga. And it's other dimensional. It's there. It can just go out of our view, and then thinking about, so if at that time they were more spiritually advanced people and they could see and experience these things. So I think more people, they become more conscious, will be able to experience these things and get more knowledge. But because we're really covered over in not seeing the other worlds that are here, they're right in front of us.
How can somebody from Puerto Rico that has something that they want to talk about, how do they reach out to Jorge?
Oh, he actually, on his Facebook, he actually puts his phone number to call. That's not in front of me, but please go to his Facebook, Jorge Martin Miranda. And I actually, in the last one that I put out, I think I linked, or I think in the comments, I linked to him. But yeah, Jorge Martin Miranda. And then you can call his number or email him and get more information and know what to do when you go to Puerto Rico.
Okay, hold on for a second. Hold on. Let me find him on Facebook. I'm sure that we're friends. So, yeah, we're friends. Okay.
Oh, great.
There he is right there. So yeah, it's Jorge Martin Miranda on Facebook. I'm going to copy this and I'll pop this into the chat. By the time I get back to the chat right now, they should have his name up. I'm talking about okay, this is what it is. Okay, everybody right there. And what a, you know, I know that the invitation for me to go out to Puerto Rico is always there. I just need to do this. I've got to pull the trigger. I've got to go to Puerto Rico, and you know what I'm going to do tonight? I'm going to watch Contact.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
gonna watch there's reasons why I'm gonna watch Contact. I've got Seth Shostak, on Thursday. But Puerto Rico and Arecibo that's the co-star of Contact, and that's the setup for Contact. Can I get to Arecibo? Is there a way to have access?
It's easy. Well, I don't know if you can get to the actual radio telescope now because it's broken down and it's not all in one piece anymore. Arecibo is like a town. We didn't stop because we were going from Luquillo, where we were staying when we went to the rainforest, to Rincon, near Laguna Cartagena. So we didn't stop in Arecibo and try to see it again. We'd seen it before. But yeah, see what I find out. I wonder if Seth will know, though. You could ask him.
Yeah, and Chris just said, "I'll meet you there." We could have, we could have the Fader knots, and let's all go to Puerto Rico. We'll march. We'll do a million Fader march to Arecibo.
Yes,
with signs.
You know what's interesting though? We went to where I had the photo of the alien watching us. So I couldn't wait to get back there to see, because it's a nature center, and we went back to that after we'd been to El Yunque when we were back in Rincon, and then there's signs there it's closed. So of course I went through that gate, and they say, closed, no humans, no cars, no anything. And I actually went past a Forestry Service truck, and they were there in a building in the nature center talking, having some kind of meeting. But I walked right past it, and I walked further into the trail. I kept taking a lot of pictures like before, but then another set of signs that said birds only from this point. And there's no way. Yeah,
how convenient. How convenient.
Yeah, that always happens when there's been ET activity that gets shut down again. That's what happens. So you can't get through. So I thought, I don't have a story to tell them. 2 sets of signs. If they catch me now, I can't say, well, it was a mistake. I didn't see the sign,
Check out Chad. He just says, I'll be here another 7 months. Let's go. That's another good t-shirt. Birds only past this point. Serena, you are the absolute very best. I miss you so much. And I've got to get you and your better half up here to my place, because I'm always going down to your place.
I know. We haven't seen it yet. We want to go up there.
No, well, come up here. I have very special cucumber sandwiches.
Oh, good. Well, I can bring some too.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet you will.
And we're already planning the next Conscious Life Expo. And
Can you believe? Oh, okay, so I've just got 30 seconds left. Can you leak any information about it?
We've got Brian Forster.
Well,
so I know you're going on his tour later.
I'm going to see Brian here in a couple of months. That's really cool.
That's the first time. I'm very excited.
That's a hard. You know what's nearly impossible to do is getting Brian to leave Peru.
Yes,
he loves it there. He loves it, and I didn't want to leave Peru, right? You just don't. It's a beautiful country, and so Brian and I were on the bus, and we're talking back and forth to the people on the tour, right? So Brian and I are asking each other questions. And I go, so Brian, when you come into the States, he goes, man, and he said something like, why would I leave? Why would I leave? Peru is perfect. I just love it here. And so getting him up to Conscious Life Expo, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
That's a
he
big
already
deal.
agreed. He's already agreed. So it's so interesting.
It's
So
going to
many
be great.
questions to ask
Okay,
him.
that's one good leak. Give me one more. I have
We have
15
got-
seconds.
We have got Skinwalker Ranch. We've got 3. We've got Thomas, Bryant, and Caleb from Skinwalker Ranch. And they know so much. It's going to be amazing.
Okay, so am I involved?
Yes, you're definitely going to introduce them and help with the questions. Absolutely. And one of them will be on your panel. And they will all be at your disclosure lunch.
I love it. I love it.
Right?
I love it. Skinwalker Live at
Yes.
Conscious Life Expo with host Jimmy Church, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh.
I know,
Serena, this is why you're one of the best producers in the world, and you always put on the best events. And what a great show tonight. Thank you for everything,
Thank you.
Serena.
Great.
Behave and be well. Give my best to Douglas, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'll talk to you at 11 a.m.
Okay.
Good night, Serena.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Serena Wright Taylor, the absolute very best. This is Fade to Black. I'll see everybody tomorrow night. We are going to do the Great Crust Hoax. That's right. Tomorrow night on Fade to Black. For now, go Beckley Tappy. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go Beckley Tappy.